The crimson alarms shrieked through the Zephyrian containment facility as metal groaned and twisted under impossible pressure. Dr. Velthair's four eyes widened in terror as he watched Subject 7, the massive Krythok, tear through reinforced barriers like they were made of paper. The creature stood 12 feet tall, its obsidian hide gleaming with pulsing bioluminescent veins that ran like rivers of liquid fire across its muscular frame. Crystalline spikes protruded from its spine, each one crackling with stored energy. The facility shook violently as the Krythok's massive claws raked across the titanium walls, leaving deep gouges in metal that was supposed to withstand starship weaponry. Security guards scattered in panic as the creature's intelligent amber eyes swept the room, calculating, hunting. This was no mindless beast. This was a predator designed for war, and it was angry. "All units fall back," Commander Thexal barked. Into his communicator, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "The Warbeast is loose. Pete. Subject 7 has breached containment." The Krythek's roar shattered windows across 3 levels of the facility. The sound was unlike anything in nature, a deep, resonating bellow that seemed to vibrate through the very bones of every living thing within miles. Scientists and soldiers alike dropped their weapons and covered their ears, some collapsing as the sonic assault overwhelmed their senses. Energy weapons blazed to life, filling the corridors with brilliant flashes of plasma fire. But every shot bounced harmlessly off the creature's adaptive hide, which seemed to absorb and redistribute the energy through its crystalline spikes. The Krythok moved with terrifying grace, its massive form flowing like liquid death through the facility's corridors. Neural disruptors whined as they powered up, our operators desperate to stop the creature's rampage. The devices had worked on every other bioweapon the Zephyrians had created, scrambling brain patterns and reducing even the most intelligent creatures to confusion. But the Krythok's enhanced brain structure had been built to resist such attacks. The neural waves washed over it like water over stone, having no effect whatsoever. Dr. Velfor watched his life's work destroy everything around him. He had spent decades perfecting the Krythok project, combining the DNA of the galaxy's most dangerous predators with artificial enhancements that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. The creature was supposed to be the ultimate weapon, intelligent enough to follow complex battle strategies while remaining perfectly controllable through advanced neural implants embedded in its skull. But something had gone catastrophically wrong. The facility's emergency blast doors, each weighing several tons, slammed shut in sequence, trying to contain the creature. The Krythok paused for only a moment, studying the massive barriers with those terrifyingly intelligent eyes. Then it raised one clawed hand and simply punched through the first door, the reinforced metal crumpling like foil. Within minutes, the entire facility was in ruins. Emergency lighting flickered through smoke-filled corridors as the Krythok smashed through the final barrier, the facility's outer hull. The creature's crystalline spikes flared with stored energy as it launched itself into the void of space, leaving a trail of devastation behind. The vacuum of space didn't seem to affect the creature at all. Its bioluminescent veins pulsed brighter as it adapted to the hostile environment, and it began to move through space with powerful strokes of its limbs, swimming through the cosmic void like a predator through dark water. News of the escape spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Emergency broadcasts interrupted regular programming on 1,000 worlds. The Galactic Defense Network went to high alert. Trade routes were suspended. Entire star systems began evacuating their populations. The Krythok had been designed as the ultimate weapon, a creature that could single-handedly turn the tide of any battle. It was intelligent enough to plan complex strategies, strong enough to tear apart starships with its bare claws, and fast enough to outrun most military vessels. The neural implants were supposed to keep it under perfect control, making it an ideal soldier that would never question orders or turn on its creators. But now it was loose in the galaxy, and no one knew how to stop it. Meanwhile, millions of light years away, the human colony ship New Dawn continued its peaceful journey toward the frontier worlds. The massive vessel carried 50,000 colonists, including entire families, seeking new lives among the stars. The ship's observation deck was a popular gathering place. with its massive, transparent aluminum windows offering spectacular views of the cosmos. 12-year-old Park Ji-won pressed his face against the viewport, watching distant stars wheel slowly past. He had been born on Earth, but had spent most of his life aboard various ships as his family searched for the perfect world to call home. The vastness of space no longer intimidated him. Instead, it filled him with wonder and curiosity. His sister, Lee Sahi, sat nearby in one of the comfortable viewing chairs, reading reports about the escaped creature on her datapad. At 15, she was more serious than her brother, already planning to study xenobiology at the Colonial University. The news feeds were full of terrifying stories about the Krythox rampage. "The whole galaxy is scared of one animal," she murmured. Scrolling through another report about evacuated systems. "That seems impossible." Guan shrugged, still gazing out at the stars. Maybe they're just doing it wrong. 3-star systems fell silent within days, their communication networks going dark one by one. The Krythok moved like a force of nature, leaving nothing but debris fields and twisted metal in its wake. The creature seemed to have no pattern, no purpose other than destruction. It would appear at the edge of a system, tear through orbital defenses like they were made of cardboard, then vanish into hyperspace before reinforcements could arrive. The first system to fall was Beta Centauri, home to 12 billion souls. The orbital defense platforms, each one the size of a small moon, lasted exactly 14 minutes against the creature's assault. Massive plasma cannons that could vaporize asteroids simply bounced off the Krythek's hide. The creature moved through the defensive grid like a shark through a school of fish, its crystalline spikes glowing brighter with each weapon it absorbed. Military fleets from the Centauri Alliance scrambled to respond, their massive dreadnoughts jumping to hyperspace as fast as their engines could charge. Admiral Kexandra commanded the flagship Eternal Vigilance, a ship so large it had its own gravity wells. Her fleet of 37 vessels represented the finest military force in the galaxy. Armed with weapons that could crack planets, they engaged the creature near Vega Station, a massive trading hub that serviced half the galaxy's commerce. The battle was broadcast live across 1,000 worlds, billions of beings watching in horror as their greatest military power faced the escaped weapon. "All ships, open fire," Admiral Kexandra commanded, her voice steady despite the fear in her heart. The space around Vega Station lit up like a star-going nova. Particle beams, plasma torpedoes, and quantum disruptors all converged on the Krythek's position. The creature should have been vaporized instantly. Instead, it absorbed every blast, its bioluminescent veins pulsing brighter as it fed on the energy. The Krythok moved with impossible speed, closing the distance to the nearest dreadnought in seconds. Its claws tore through the ship's hull like it was made of tinfoil. The massive vessel, over 2 miles long and home to 15,000 crew members, split in half under the creature's assault. One by one, the dreadnoughts fell. The Eternal Vigilance lasted the longest, its advanced shields holding for nearly 3 minutes before the Krythok's relentless assault finally broke through. Admiral Kexandra's final transmission was cut short as her ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The creature emerged from the debris field unharmed, its hide now gleaming with absorbed energy. It paused for a moment, as if considering its next move, then vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only wreckage and the stunned silence of a galaxy that had just watched its greatest fleet destroyed. Master Beast Tamer, Quinder of the Telepathic Consortium, volunteered for the next attempt. The ancient being had spent centuries learning to communicate with the galaxy's most dangerous creatures, his mind enhanced with cybernetic implants that allowed him to project his thoughts across vast distances. If anyone could reach the Krythok's consciousness, it would be him. He attempted to breach the creature's mind during its assault on the Rigel system, projecting his consciousness across space to make contact. The encounter lasted less than 30 seconds, but Quindor emerged from it screaming about walls of fire and endless hunger. The telepathic feedback had damaged his mind permanently, leaving him in a catatonic state from which he would never recover. The ancient AI network called the Eternal Collective, a vast computational system that had been calculating solutions to galactic problems for over 10,000 years, was activated for emergency consultation. The AI processed every known detail about the Krythok, running millions of simulations per second. It calculated 47,000 possible solutions, tested each one virtually, and concluded that none had even a remote chance of success. The galaxy's greatest minds had failed. Military might had proved useless. Even the most advanced technology couldn't stop the creature. Dr. Velther stood before the Emergency Galactic Council, his forearms trembling as he faced the assembled leaders of 1,000 worlds. The council chamber was packed with representatives from every major species, their faces showing the same: a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "Explain to us how this happened," demanded Council Chairman Morgoth, his crystalline features reflecting the emergency lighting. "How did your creation become unstoppable?" Dr. Velthor's voice shook as he spoke. "The Krythok was designed to be immune to all known forms of control. We gave it adaptive intelligence, enhanced survival instincts, and the ability to learn from every encounter. We thought the neural implants would keep it under our command, but we were wrong. It has become perfect." "Perfect at what?" Chairman Morgoth's voice carried the weight of a galaxy's fear. "At being unstoppable." The creature's path carved through space toward the heavily populated Kepler sector, home to over 50 billion beings across dozens of worlds. Millions of ships began evacuating, creating the largest refugee crisis in galactic history. But there wasn't enough time. The Krythok moved faster than anticipated, as if it had learned to manipulate gravitational fields to increase its speed through space. Reports came in of the creature's evolving abilities. It was learning, adapting, becoming more dangerous with each encounter. The neural implants hadn't failed completely. They had been absorbed into the creature's consciousness, adding to its intelligence rather than controlling it. Captain Rodriguez of the New Dawn received the evacuation order while his ship carried 50,000 human colonists toward their new home in the Outer Rim. The message was brief but clear. All civilian vessels were to assist in the evacuation of the Kepler sector. "We're changing course," the captain announced over the ship's communication system. "All ships are being redirected to assist in the evacuation. We're heading into dangerous territory, but we have a duty to help those in need." Among the colonists, young Park Juan spent his time in the ship's small observation zoo, where Earth animals were kept to seed the new colony. The zoo was a popular place for children, offering a reminder of home in the vastness of space. Guan had always been drawn to animals, spending hours watching their behavior and learning their habits. He sat cross-legged on the floor, watching his dog buddy sleeping peacefully in the artificial sunlight. The golden retriever had been his constant companion since childhood, a gift from his parents when they first decided to leave Earth. Around them, other Earth animals lived in carefully controlled habitats: rabbits and cats, and even a few horses. That would help establish agriculture on their new world. "We're heading toward the most dangerous creature in the galaxy," Guan said to Buddy, scratching behind the dog's ears. "But you're not scared, are you?" The dog yawned and stretched, completely unconcerned with the galactic crisis unfolding around them. Even in the face of galactic terror, some things remained simple. Animals didn't worry about things they couldn't control. They lived in the moment, trusted their instincts, responded to the world around them with honesty and directness. As the New Dawn changed course toward the Kepler sector, Guan continued to watch the animals, learning lessons that would soon prove more valuable than all the galaxy's advanced technology. The evacuation of Kepler Station became absolute chaos. Thousands of ships from across the sector jammed the massive docking bays, their engines creating a symphony of mechanical screams as captains pushed their vessels beyond safe limits. Emergency lights bathed everything in red as evacuation alarms blared continuously. Families clutched their belongings while rushing toward any ship that would take them, children crying as they were separated from friends they might never see again. The Krythok's approach registered on long-range sensors, like a storm front moving across space, but this time something was different. The creature moved with purpose now, no longer random in its destruction. It had learned something during its rampage across the galaxy. and that knowledge made it even more dangerous. Kim Minho, the new Dawn's chief engineer, worked frantically in the ship's engine room, sweat beading on his forehead as he rerouted power to boost the ship's shields. His hands moved across the control panels with practiced efficiency, but everyone could see the fear in his eyes. The ship's defensive systems had never been designed to face something like the Krythok. Power coupling stable, he reported over the CUM system. Shield strength at maximum, but it won't hold for long if that thing decides to attack us. His daughter, Choi Yuna, had volunteered to help distribute supplies to the refugee families now crowding the ship's corridors. She moved between the frightened civilians with calm efficiency, handing out food rations and blankets while offering words of comfort. The refugees came from dozens of different worlds, speaking different languages, but fear was universal. Stay calm, she told a family of blue-skinned Regelians who had lost everything when their world was attacked. We'll get through this together. But it was 12-year-old Park Ji-won who noticed something strange in the tactical reports. While adults focused on evacuation procedures and defensive preparations, he sat in a quiet corner of the observation deck, studying the data streams on his tablet. The information painted a picture that didn't match what everyone believed about the creature. Look at this, he said to his sister Sahi, pointing at the damage patterns displayed on his screen. It's not just destroying things, it's single quotes, searching. So he paused in her reading of refugee reports and leaned over to study her brother's tablet. The tactical data showed the Krythok's movement patterns across multiple star systems, and when viewed together, they formed a strange picture. Searching for what? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, but watch the pattern. Ji-won's finger traced across the screen, highlighting the creature's path. It hits military targets first, then moves to residential areas. But it avoids agricultural zones and keeps circling back to the same regions. It's like it's looking for something specific. The ship shuddered violently as the Krythok finally appeared on the main viewer, its massive form filling the screen. Even at this distance, its presence was terrifying. The creature stood in the vacuum of space, as if it were solid ground, its bioluminescent veins pulsing with captured energy from the destroyed fleets. Energy crackled around its crystalline spikes like trapped lightning, and its eyes, those intelligent, ancient eyes, seemed to pierce through space itself, searching, always searching. All weapons, fire, Captain Rodriguez commanded from the bridge, his voice tight with controlled fear. The ship's defensive batteries opened up, joined by dozens of other vessels in the evacuation fleet. The space around Kepler Station lit up, like a deadly fireworks display as plasma cannons, missile launchers, and energy weapons all targeted the creature. The combined firepower was enough to level a small moon, but every blast was absorbed or deflected by the Krythok's adaptive hide. The creature didn't even seem to notice the attacks. It moved closer with those fluid, predatory movements, but its attention seemed fixed on something else entirely. Its massive head turned slowly, scanning the evacuation fleet as if looking for one specific ship among thousands. Ji-won abandoned his tablet and ran to the observation deck, pressing his face against the transparent aluminum viewport. The creature's movements reminded him of something familiar, something he had seen countless times, but never in a context like this. The way it moved, the way it searched it, was exactly like the way Buddy acted when he was lost in a new place. Circling and searching, growing more agitated with each passing moment. It's scared, he whispered, his breath fogging the viewport. What did you say, son?
Captain Rodriguez
had followed him to the observation deck, drawn by something in the boy's voice. It's scared. Look at how it moves. It's not Honey Neat's lost. The captain stared at the boy, then at the creature that had terrorized the galaxy. The idea seemed impossible. That's impossible. It's a weapon designed for war. It doesn't get scared. So is Buddy, if you think about it. It's got teeth and claws, and he's descended from wolves. But he's still just a dog. Ji-won's voice was steady, confident in a way that made the adults around him pause and listen. The Krythok's roar echoed through space, a sound so deep and powerful that it vibrated through the ship's hull. But for the first time, Ji-won heard something else in that sound. Not rage or hunger, but something more primal, loneliness. confusion, fear. When Buddy gets lost in a new place, he acts just like that, Giwan continued, still watching the creature. He gets aggressive because he's scared. He destroys things because he doesn't know what else to do. But he's not mean, he's just confused. Other crew members had gathered on the observation deck, drawn by the strange conversation. They watched as the Krythok moved among the evacuation ships, its massive form dwarfing even the largest vessels. The creature could have destroyed them all in minutes, but instead it seemed to be examining them, looking for something. "Look at its eyes," Juan said, pointing at the main viewer. "Really look at them. They're not the eyes of a mindless killer. They're the eyes of something that's lost and doesn't know how to get home." The adults exchanged glances. The boy's words sounded crazy, but there was something in his voice that made them want to believe. And when they looked at the creature, Ely looked at it, they began to see what Jiwan saw. The Krytok's movements weren't random acts of destruction. They were the actions of a lost, frightened animal that had been designed to be the perfect weapon, but had never been taught how to be anything else. The ship shuddered again as the Krythok moved closer. Crystalline spikes casting strange shadows across the observation deck. In the distance, other ships continued their desperate evacuation, but something had changed. The creature's attention was now focused entirely on the new dawn, as if it had finally found what it was searching for. "What does it want?"
"Captain,"
Rodriguez asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Giwan pressed his hand against the viewport, studying the creature's ancient eyes. "I think it wants to go home, but it doesn't know where home is anymore." The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and somehow, a 12-year-old boy who understood animals better than anyone understood, weapons might be the key to saving them all. The Krythok's roar shook the entire ship as it approached the new dawn, the sound so powerful that it rattled the coffee cups in the mess hall and made the lights flicker throughout the vessel. The creature moved through space with terrifying grace, its massive form blocking out the stars behind it. Other vessels in the evacuation fleet scattered like frightened birds, their engines screaming as they jumped to hyperspace or fled at maximum impulse power. But Captain Rodriguez found himself believing in a 12-year-old's impossible theory. Something about the boy's calm certainty had planted a seed of hope in the captain's mind. Against every protocol, every instinct screamed by his military training, he held position. The bridge erupted in chaos as crew members realized what was happening. Warning lights flashed red across every console, and the proximity alarms wailed like banshees. The Krythok was now so close that individual details of its terrifying form were visible on the main screen. Its crystalline spikes pulsed with absorbed energy, each one the size of a shuttlecraft. Its claws, each longer than a person, could tear through the ship's hull like tissue paper. "Sir, we need to evacuate." First Officer Park Hyun-woo shouted over the cacophony of alarms, his face pale with fear. "That thing will be on top of us in 30 seconds. The tactical officer's hands flew over his console as he prepared to engage the ship's defensive systems. Shields at maximum. Weapons charging. "Stand down weapons," Rodriguez ordered, his voice cutting through the panic. All of them. The bridge crew stared at him in shock. Lieutenant Commander Kim Ji-hoon, the ship's weapons officer, actually took his hands off the controls as if they had burned him. "Sir, with respect, that's suicide. We have 50,000 people on this ship. Stand down," Rodriguez repeated, his voice carrying the weight of absolute command. "That's an order." The Krythok was now close enough that its crystalline spikes filled the entire view screen. Its massive claws flexed as it moved, and its bioluminescent VEINS pulsed with a hypnotic rhythm. The creature's eyes, each one the size of a shuttle bay, seemed to peer directly into the souls of everyone watching. Gi-wan stepped forward onto the bridge, his small form dwarfed by the massive command consoles around him. Several crew members tried to stop him, but something in his calm demeanor made them hesitate. "Can I try something?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the emergency alarms. "Son, this is Captain Rodriguez," began, but the boy interrupted. "Him, please, just let me try." Rodriguez looked at the approaching creature, then at the boy's determined face. In those young eyes, he saw something that reminded him of his own childhood. When problems seemed simpler, and solutions came from the heart rather than from complicated technology. "Open a channel," he ordered, his voice steady despite the fear. In his heart, the communication officer's fingers trembled as he activated the ship's communication array. The system came online, broadcasting on all frequencies, sending signals into the void where the massive creature waited. The Krythok paused, its great head turning toward the ship like a dog hearing its name called. For the first time since its escape, the creature stopped moving forward. Its crystalline spikes dimmed slightly, and its aggressive posture shifted almost imperceptibly. Giwan took a deep breath and stepped up to the microphone. Around him, the bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. He thought of Buddy sleeping peacefully in the observation zoo, of every frightened animal he'd ever encountered, of the way fear made even the gentlest creatures act out in ways that scared the people around them. The creature's eyes, massive, intelligent, but somehow lost, reminded him of a dog separated from its pack, wandering through an unfamiliar neighborhood, growing more desperate and dangerous with each passing hour. "Hey," he said quietly, his voice carrying across the void of space through the ship's communication system. "It's okay. You're okay." The words seemed too simple, too small to bridge the gap between a human child and a creature designed to be the ultimate weapon. But something in Jiwan's tone, something in the genuine compassion that colored every syllable, reached across the emptiness and touched something deep within the Kryak's enhanced consciousness. The creature's movements slowed, its aggressive posture shifted slightly, the tension in its massive frame easing just a fraction. On the bridge, seasoned military officers held their breath as they watched the impossible unfold before their eyes. "I know you're scared," Giwan continued, his voice remaining calm and steady despite the magnitude of what he was attempting. "I know you don't know where you are. I know everything feels wrong and dangerous, and you don't know who to trust." Krythok's head tilted, a gesture that seemed almost curious. Its crystalline spikes pulsed more slowly now, the angry red glow fading to a softer blue-white light. "But you don't have to hurt anyone else," Giwan said, his words carrying the same gentle authority he used when calming frightened animals. "You're not bad. You're just lost. And being lost is scary, but it doesn't mean you have to be alone." The creature's massive form seemed to relax slightly, its claws retracting just a little. Around the bridge, hardened military veterans watched in amazement as a child's words began to accomplish what their most advanced weapons could not. "Sit," Jiwan said, with the same gentle firmness he'd use with any anxious animal. For a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. The entire galaxy watched through emergency broadcasts as the most dangerous creature in known history faced a human child across the void. Stars wheeled slowly in their courses, and the great ships of the evacuation fleet held their positions, afraid to move or make a sound that might break the spell. Then, slowly, impossibly, the massive Krythok lowered itself into a sitting position. Its crystalline spikes dimmed to a soft, almost peaceful glow. The creature's eyes, still fixed on the new dawn, seemed to express something that no one had ever seen there before: trust. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as a human child accomplished what their greatest minds, their most powerful weapons, and their most advanced technology could not. In that moment, everything changed. The age of human dominance through technology was ending, and the age of human leadership through understanding was just beginning. On the bridge of the new dawn, Captain Rodriguez put his hand on Jiwan's shoulder, his voice barely above a whisper. "Son, I think you just saved the galaxy." News of the incredible event spread across the galaxy within hours, carried by emergency broadcasts and quantum communication networks that reached every inhabited world. The boy who spoke to the Warbeast became an instant legend, his name whispered in 1,000 different languages across countless species. Emergency news anchors from the Centauri Broadcasting Network to the Rigelian Information Service all led with the same impossible story. A human child had done what entire fleets could not. Scientists abandoned their research projects to study the recordings of first contact. Military leaders gathered in emergency sessions to discuss the implications. Philosophers debated whether they had witnessed the birth of a new form of communication or simply witnessed a miracle. The footage played endlessly across every major network, showing the moment when the most dangerous creature in the galaxy had simply sat down because a 12-year-old boy had asked it to. Dr. Velther arrived on the new dawn within days. Transport ships screaming through hyperspace at maximum velocity. The four-armed scientist had barely slept since receiving the news, his multiple eyes wide with disbelief as he studied every frame of the encounter. When he finally stood before the gathered crowd in the ship's main conference room, his voice trembled with excitement and confusion. "The neural patterns," he explained, his hands gesturing wildly as he spoke. "I've been analyzing the data from the Krythok's brain scans during the encounter. The creature's enhanced intelligence made it too complex for technological control, but it still retained basic social instincts buried deep in its consciousness. It needed ... a pack leader." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The creature hadn't been malfunctioning at all. It had been functioning exactly as designed, but with an intelligence so advanced that it had outgrown its programming. Like a brilliant child acting out because it had no guidance. The Krythok had been desperate for someone to show it the way. G1 had become that leader, not through force or technology, but through simple understanding. The creature, whom he'd named Titan, now followed the ship peacefully through space. Its destructive rampage ended. The massive beast moved alongside the new dawn like a loyal dog walking beside its master, its crystalline spikes glowing with a soft, contented light. But the implications went far beyond one tamed beast. Reports began flooding in from across the galaxy, each one more incredible than the last. The Zephyrian Empire's war sphinxes, massive flying creatures that had terrorized the Outer Rim for decades, were responding to human handlers. A cargo pilot named Song Minwoo had managed to calm an entire pack of them simply by speaking to them. In the same gentle tone he used with his pet cat, the Andromedon battle serpents. Space-dwelling creatures the size of starships that had made entire star systems uninhabitable began to retreat when approached by human diplomatic vessels. A former animal trainer named Beek Jeong had managed to establish communication with the serpents using nothing more than patience and understanding. Even the legendary Void Hunters, mysterious creatures that existed in the spaces between dimensions, began to calm under human influence. These beings had been considered mythical until recently, but human explorers were reporting peaceful encounters with them in the deepest regions of space. Le Sahi, now serving as an official translator between species, stood before the reformed Galactic Council in the Great Assembly Hall on Galactic Prime. The massive chamber was packed with representatives from every major civilization, their various forms creating a rainbow of alien diversity. The young woman who had once been just another colonist now spoke for her entire species. "Humans have spent millennia learning to communicate with other species on our planet," she explained, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's advanced acoustic systems. "We developed empathy, patience, and understanding out of necessity. We had to learn to work with wolves to create dogs, to partner with horses for transportation, to understand the needs of countless animals. These skills translate across the galaxy." Council Chairman Morjeth leaned forward in his crystalline seat, his ancient features reflecting the chamber's lights. "Are you saying humans are animal trainers to the galaxy? Or partners?" Jiwan corrected from his place beside his sister. Through the council chamber's massive windows, Titan's form was visible, floating peacefully in space, like a gentle giant. "Every species has something to offer. This is just what we bring to the table." The transformation was remarkable. The Krythok, once the galaxy's greatest terror, now served as a protector of trade routes with Giwan as its companion. The creature had learned to use its incredible abilities for construction rather than destruction, helping to build space stations and repair damaged ships. Other human-creature partnerships formed rapidly, establishing humanity's unique role in the cosmic community. Kim Minho, now appointed as the first human xenobiology liaison, watched his species transform from newcomers to essential partners. His engineering skills were now focused on creating better habitats for the galaxy's creatures, while his daughter Yuna had become a specialist in interspecies communication. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the most powerful weapon was simply knowing how to say sit with genuine care. Trade routes that had been abandoned due to creature attacks reopened under human protection. Entire sectors that had been uninhabitable for centuries became safe again. The economic boom that followed was unlike anything in galactic history, as resources that had been locked away became accessible again. As the new dawn continued toward its original destination, now escorted by a creature that had once threatened to destroy everything. Captain Rodriguez smiled as he looked out at the stars. The colony would be safe. The galaxy would be different. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or superior technology, but through the oldest skill of all, the ability to understand and care for other living beings. And, somewhere in the ship's observation deck, a boy and his dog watched the stars. Knowing that understanding was always more powerful than fear, Buddy wagged his tail contentedly, completely unaware that his simple relationship with his young master had helped save the galaxy. Outside, Titan moved through space with the same peaceful contentment, finally at home in the vast cosmos. Age of fear was over. The age of partnership had begun. The end.